activism is in the DNA, as Kendrick would say. I mean, it is, it's like, it is autobiographical in many ways. I'm Mary Corey. I'm a senior lecturer in history at UCLA, and I've been here for a long time. I came to UCLA in 1962. I was already aware of things going on at Berkeley, and when I was here was a very important time for civil rights activity. The organization that I was a member of on this campus was an organization called the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which was a group of white and black students who were fighting for civil rights on college campuses and off. Stokely Carmichael was the leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee at that time. I was here when Malcolm X gave a speech in Ackerman, and I was sitting as close to him as I am to you, and he was one of the most astounding human beings I have ever been in the presence of. I mean, his actual physical being was quite radiant. And Ackerman, they took all the seats out, and the entire Ackerman was just completely packed with people, just packed sitting on the floor, looking up at him, But one cohort of those people were people that were about my age at that time, had resources, had parents who had, given them piano lessons. And what is it that made a generation, part of the richest middle class that had ever existed on the planet, turn against the hand that fed them and say, no, I don't think so. Homie, don't play that. We're not doing that. Knowing all that, I didn't exactly come and then have my awakening at UCLA. I came from a background that would send me in that direction. My parents were unofficial members of the Communist Party in the late 20s and the early 30s. They, of course, broke with the party when Stalin and Hitler made a pact. So I am, from the get-go, what people call a red diaper baby. And a red diaper baby is somebody that is born into a family that has political consciousness and was perhaps accused of being communist by the House Un-American Activities Committee, which my parents were. Kids like us really did see the long, often cruel arm of the state penetrate into our family lives and make our parents very, very unhappy and very, very frightened. And we had also grown up under the threat of being annihilated by a nuclear bomb. I spent more time under the desk than at the desk in grammar school in Los Angeles.
He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered.
And we were very frightened. I grew up very, very frightened in spite of my parents' assurances at bedtime that, I was going to make it through the night. I think that you have a whole generation of people who are fraught with terror about the prospect of nuclear annihilation. And you couple that with a sense of their parents' hypocrisy about the place of Black people in particular and people of color in general in the scheme of things, where they keep talking about all people are created equal, and yet in their own households and in their own lives, they don't necessarily socialize with people of color. And our parents were good people, many of them, who had been politically active and who still were. They were at least liberal Democrats. And yet they speak as if they are engaged in sort of a very democratic existence. And that was troubling. I was thinking about going to graduate school. I was nominated for a fellowship, and then I decided, no, I wanted to leave California and go to New York. We were activists in New York City, serious political activists and quite radical, and it was getting really dangerous. In other words, we were really beginning to understand the nature of federal power, the nature of sort of what we call the establishment, but we would say that glibly. But we were really beginning to feel that boot on our necks. So when you're maced, or when, for example, at Berkeley, planes flew around and gassed students from above, it's a time in which people are discovering if you push against the powers that be, they will push back. And they will push back way harder than you. You know, the power would never just say, oh, here, I've been in power long enough, here you be in power. The power doesn't give up. So, you know, so there's a period of activism between 62 and 68. Things change and you know, the Black Power movement arises and things are getting hotter in the cities and things are getting scarier. And the tactics are becoming more radical on the part of the left. And a lot of us just picked up our marbles and left. In '69, we moved to southern Colorado, a whole group of us. Some of us had grown up together, some of us had met in activism in New York. We knew some people who lived in the mountains of southern Colorado, and so we decided to go visit them in the summer. And we visited and we decided, you know, let's go here. I had a wonderful time doing that. I wouldn't exchange it for anything. But I will tell you, in retrospect, that I disrespect that choice of my own. You know, that we leave our brothers and sisters in the cities, and we, because we have the resources to buy a little piece of cheap land, and we, you know somebody that went to architecture school, can have this sort of bump and party in the country. My then husband used to say, this is just a white comfort trip. And I said, well, yeah, you do have a point, you know, that there was a way in which we were telling ourselves a story that we were creating a society. And when the revolution was won, everybody was going to come rushing to them, and they would be ready with the goats and the, you know, and the domes and the barn and the pigs and the chickens and, you know, the crop and we were convinced of that. You know, I think that right now is a really, really interesting time to check in on student activism. I'm speechless about Trump in the sense that I'm one of those people that was in the echo chamber and could not see that somebody that physically repelling would ever be voted for. I mean, that's very shallow, but I mean, I felt like the American people at their most shallow would still not want to vote for somebody that looked like that and behaved like that. I was wrong. And he's kind of the id of the American lie about our democracy. I mean, he looks the part. And I do think that there is an upside. I think that you really do have a very radicalized student body right now. Most of them are part of the resistance in one way or another. And people really are understanding that there's no one at the wheel. And if you want a democracy, you're going to have to fight for it. I think Black Lives Matter is extremely important. I think it's going to continue to be extremely important. I think that there's real civic engagement right now. And I think it's so critical. And I'm very happy to see that. And I think that it will change things.